Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the meeting of the Fair Political Practices Commission. Do you want to take roll?
Sure. Commissioner Escovitz?
Here.
Commissioner Garrett?
Here.
Commissioner Montgomery?
Here.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Here.
Chair Rabel?
Here. Thank you. First and foremost, I want to welcome the newest commissioner, Gavin Hachia-Wasserman. We are so pleased to have you here and know that you will make great contributions to this commission. And Commissioner Wasserman, just for those of you who don't know, is the managing partner of Wasserman & Wasserman, and he's also general counsel for Hachitan Entertainment in Torrance, California. He was past president of the barristers of the Los Angeles County Bar Association and a former member of the Board of Governors of the Japanese American Bar Association. He has also participated in many, many community activities, boards, and commissions in Southern California. He was appointed by Controller Chang to a 4-year term, and we have to say that Controller Chang made a wonderful appointment, and we're once again very glad to have you. You want to say anything?
Thank you. I just wanted to learn how to use the microphone. I'm very much looking forward to serving on this commission. I wanted to thank my predecessor, Professor Ron Rotunda, for his service, and Controller Chung for appointing me from the candidates submitted by the California Republican Party. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next, I wanted to let everybody know that later on the agenda, we're going to have a very important presentation from a number of people who are here in the front row who represent, for me, the direction that the FPPC is going in the provision of information to the public online. They participated in a very amazing activity where they donated their time in a hackathon. And when I tell people that we were having a hackathon, they said, "Are you kidding me? You want people to hack into the FPPC?" I'm sure that you've all heard this many times. But what they have done has begun the ability to provide tools to help voters search for important information and to visualize important information about politics, political activity, contributions, and public employee financial information. We partnered with the nonprofit organization Code for America and two of their accelerator companies, Capricity and LearnSprout, for this 2-day hackathon. We had this team who is going to speak about the work that they did, as well as another solo team who cleaned up Secretary of State data. And that person in that solo team is now wonderful, he's walking over right now, a wonderful member of the IT staff at the FPPC. So everybody please stay for that presentation. It's really, really going to be a good presentation. I am also very proud to announce that the FPPC is going to be receiving an award on March 12th, 2013 in San Francisco, and you are all, I think, invited to be there. The award, and I'm reading from Wikipedia, but it's presented by the Northern California chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists. And it is the James Madison Freedom of Information Award, which was provided to the FPPC for, and I've got it here somewhere, it is essentially the FPPC earns a James Madison Award because it did not merely investigate and respond with a nominal fine. This is in the Americans for Responsible Leadership matter prior to the election, or wait until safely after the elections, but went to the mat for immediate pre-election disclosure of information that had great importance to voters and the integrity of California's elections, and then stood its ground. The James Madison Award honors those who've made significant contributions to the advancement of freedom of expression. And what I got from Wikipedia, which I think is really great that we're in this company, is that previous recipients have included Daniel Ellsberg, Chief Justice Ron George, and the one that the FPPC most resembles is the poet Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And not everybody knows who Lawrence Ferlinghetti is, those of you who are under a certain age, but I'm impressed by that. And then finally, I wanted to announce that the FPPC is having a program on April 30th on the future of campaign finance. And this program is at Stanford University, together with Stanford Law School and the Lane Center at Stanford. And it will be a conversation with Ken Starr and Russ Feingold, with Stanford law professor and a former member of this commission, Pam Carlin, as the moderator. As far as we know, the particulars are still a little bit in flux, but it will be held at the Stanford campus, we think, in Paul Brest Hall, with a reception beginning at 6, and the panel is scheduled to begin at 7. And this is a topic that I think is of great importance to everybody who's here, and we welcome your participation. We'd love for you to come, and we hope that you invite others to this important and interesting event. Now we will move on. Is there any member of the public who would like to come forward and speak about an item that is not on the agenda? Sir.
I'd like to speak about something on the agenda.
Okay. When we get to that, anybody that wants to speak generally? Okay, thank you. There is a proposed consent calendar of items 2 through 37. Perhaps we could start with just item 2, which would be approval of the December 2012 Commission meeting minutes. And just for everybody's information, there were some non-substantive changes to the minutes that were provided and should be outside and also online that we will be approving today, not the ones that are in the original packet. Is there?
Hi, this is Commissioner Garrett. I have a member of the public in my office who wants to make comments in the public part of this, so I just wanted to let you guys know so you'll help me figure out how to do that.
Yes. Well, we can go back to that. Why don't we have a motion? We have a motion with regard to the minutes, and then we can go back to the...
I'm sorry, we lost the connection, so I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. We will go back to the public comment section, and at that point, the member of the public can make a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Estevez?
Yes.
Commissioner
Did
Garrett?
you call my name? I approve. I can't hear, sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
I'll abstain from that.
Chair Ravel?
Yes. Thank you. All right, we will go back to item number 1, public comment. I understand there's a member of the public in.
Yes, I'll ask her to identify herself, and we're working on a speakerphone here, so please let us know if this doesn't work.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Garrett.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Isabel Vasquez. I'm a resident of School Board District 2 and a independent candidate for school board in the LA School Board elections. And I'm here to request that the California Fair Political Practices Commission investigate or audit the sizable contributions made by external parties to the current LAUSD school board races, to include but not limited to the following: billboards that were paid by a nonprofit established to support art programs for LAUSD students. These billboards included photographs of current candidates and incumbents to the board race, the origins of $250,000 contribution made by 501c4 Students First and others to Coalition for School Reform for political purposes, because we don't know where that money came from, and the practice of a school board member to request confidential information during work time of school administrative assistants about meetings that principals have with parents. Although it is not apparent, it is possible that because the incumbent has access to the school, the incumbent may be strong-arming principals to allow the incumbent president to meet with parents right before elections under the guise of representing the school board. And then the practice of the television station not giving equal access to candidates who are not currently board members. And any other investigation, the sizable contributions that have been made to a local school board race now exceed the $2 million from external parties. And to me, we have in School Board District 2 specifically large numbers of parents and residents who are not eligible to vote. And then with the elimination of parental involvement groups by the current board majority, parents have been pretty much excluded from the electoral process and from having voice, and instead are being replaced by individual donations from external sources that are influencing the electoral process here in Los Angeles. So anything that the California Fair Political Practices Commission can do to assist in having a fair election where the local electorate is the one that decides through the electoral process who represents them would be appreciated. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Our Chief of Enforcement, Gary Winnick, is present. You may call him directly, and his number is contained on our website. And if you do so, then you can give him the particulars that you're referring to, and he can make a determination about how to go forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next items would be 3 through 37. They are on a proposed consent calendar. Are there any commissioners that wish to remove any item from consent? Is there a member of the public that wishes to speak or would like an item removed from consent? Hearing none, Mr. Winnick, do you have any comments that you want to make about the items?
I've always said never snatch victory or defeat from the jaws of victory. So.
Thank you. Is there a motion with respect to the consent items?
I'll move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Commissioner Escovitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Montgomery?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Chair Rabel?
Yes. Thank you. Those of you who were hoping for a really long meeting, I apologize. Okay, we are now to item number 38, which is assignment of hearing to administrative law judge. Mr. Winnick.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Gary Winnick, Chief of the Enforcement Division. As the Commission knows, when we are getting past the probable cause stage and taking something to administrative hearing. The commission has the ability, if two or more commissioners desire, to participate in the hearing with the administrative law judge. Generally, that has not been the preference of the commission, but we have put this item on to make sure you have the opportunity to do that if you so desire.
Does any member of the commission either have a question or wish to take some other action on this matter? No? Any comments from members of the public? Hearing none, we do not need to take any formal action, correct? This is just
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. The next item is item 39, the Enforcement Division End of the Year Report. And I forgot to mention, on the bottom of the page you see here, we have a Wi-Fi password now. So anybody that, sorry it's a little late, but anybody that needs to get on the internet, that is our password, Assure Trust.
Madam Chair, I apologize. We have one exhibit we wanted to set up really quickly.
Okay,
We
we'll
want to
take
block
a-
people's view before
All right, we'll take a little hiatus.
my trusty assistant is.
For those of you who don't know, I think I introduced him in San Diego. This is Adam Silver, who is our Capitol Fellow and a lawyer who does a great job setting up exhibits. Thank you.
For the record, he does a lot more substantive work as well.
Yes, he does.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for the record, those two posters are really for the audience benefit. You're going to see the same information on your screen.
It's in the
Yeah.
same.
It's the commission eye chart. Okay, great. Gary Winnick again, Chief of the Enforcement Division. As we do every year, we try and summarize our activities and some of the highlights for the division for the prior year and give the Commission the opportunity to review some of that and ask questions if you have it. I really want to start by thanking the Enforcement Division staff who worked tremendously hard and was so dedicated last year and achieved really what I consider to be fantastic results. I get to stand and give the report, but it really is standing on their shoulders and their work. The Commission has given us the direction to focus on more serious cases, more serious violations of the Act. And I think, as you'll see from the attached exhibits, that's exactly what we've been trying to do. Last year, our prosecutions of money laundering cases were at their highest level ever. Our serious campaign cases were, again, at an extremely high level. And our conflicts of interest, our third point of emphasis, also we're continuing to be record highs. I'll add also that in our current investigative caseload, probably 40% of that caseload is conflicts of interest, and another 20% being money laundering investigations. So even the things in the pipeline for this year are of a serious nature. I wanted to highlight the continued growth also of our proactive efforts. The Commission has made it loud and clear that you're concerned about making sure that violations are corrected, if possible, before the election when that matters. So to do that, we've started a number of proactive programs that I will very briefly highlight. First, we focused on advertising disclosure, particularly with state ballot measure campaigns. We've proactively reviewed all of them and interceded where they weren't meeting the requirements for disclosure. We proactively selected a number of cities throughout the state to call the city clerks and have them identify non-filers in competitive races and specifically intervene with those candidates to get the filings done before the election. That wound up being a really big success on a couple of levels. First, the state clerks really, I think, appreciated having that kind of backup to their usual pleas to have people file that sometimes go unheeded. And second of all, the compliance rate once we called, as you can imagine, was quite high. So I think we had a 100% success rate in those ones we intervened in getting the filing done. So that was a lot of information available to the public that didn't come back as a fine after the election, but actually got the information, where it needed to be. We also were really aggressive in pursuing other instances of non-disclosure. The one that got the most attention was the Arizona case, which is ongoing, and we can't discuss too much. But that really was one of many situations we became aware of where we intervened. One of the cases we had on the agenda today was a product of that, the Rose Herrera San Jose situation, where a contribution was made in a substantial way that clearly could not have been made. We intervened to basically unwind the contribution so someone didn't get an unfair advantage in the election and make sure the proper disclosure happened. So there were a number of situations like that where we took steps to correct errors when it mattered, which is the direction that we've received. Just numbers-wise, we had 712 cases that had proven violations. That's counting warning letters and case prosecutions. We had 178 cases prosecuted by the commission. And we hope to continue all of that for this year and continue to see similar numbers. And just on a final note, I'm glad this is no longer a topic in the course of my time here, but we continue to maintain the timeliness of our cases. Cases over 2 years old remain below 20 in total, nothing stretching back longer than, I think, 3 years. So we're still getting timely results and maintaining that as well. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to have any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the commission? Anybody in the audience with a question? Thank you very much, Mr. Winnick.
Thank you.
Thank you for the beautiful graphics. Before we go on to the next presentation, I neglected to welcome the California Political Attorneys Association that's present and accounting for the overflow crowd. Thank you very much for coming. They're having a meeting here in Sacramento today, so welcome. Item 40 is the presentation of open data application. And Tina Bass, and acting executive director, and the IT staff member, Tam Doe. Welcome, Tam.
Tina Bass, good morning. Today we have a special presentation for you. Chair Ravel mentioned... Okay, thank you. Mentioned in our open remarks that the winners from the hackathon event are here today. For me, our participation in the event demonstrates a new, broader view of the role of technology for our agency. Technology is a key part of accomplishing our mission to increase transparency and disclosure, and a willingness to explore new types of technology, which allows us to accomplish our mission in new ways. Over the past year, we've expanded our view of how we communicate. We now have Twitter and Facebook. We now offer a live webcast of our commission meeting, and we are expanding our capabilities in that area. In addition to our live seminars, we are now sponsoring webinars to allow our Technical Assistance Division to reach a wider group. We've improved our website and have started further development in that area to make it easier for users to find what they need. And we are also working on a gift app to allow gift tracking from mobile devices. We're looking at new ways of providing improved data access to the public. We've been exploring ways to make the Form 700 available in a more accessible format. Last year, we took a small sample of Form 700 statements filed in 2012 by California judges and posted the statements in an easy-to-manipulate format. The company we partnered with, Captricity, was able to take the forms, including the handwritten forms, and convert them into digital data that can be searched and manipulated. The hackathon event, called Data Deathmatch, was hosted by Code for America, a not-for-profit that helps government through the encouragement of civic technology use. FPPC provided the civic data, and the company Captricity hosted the data. Basically, we provided two sets of data: the entire download of forms maintained by the Secretary of State, which is about 5 gigabytes of data, and the Form 700s of the judges that I mentioned earlier. The team who won the grand prize, Open Judge, here today, was the grand prize winner. And another team, though, Tamdo, was a single person team. He cleaned up the Secretary of State data set for us. And I don't know if Chair Ravel mentioned, but this was a 2-day event. So this was basically one evening and one day to do all of this work. He didn't win the grand prize, but he did an extraordinary job with his elegant programming solution. And Open Judge won the grand prize, but I think actually FPPC won the prize. So we have Tam working for us now. So Tam's going to show you what he did at the hackathon.
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Tam Do. I was a participant at the hackathon, and I am now working for the IT department at the FPPC. I want to share a little bit about the data set we had at the hackathon. As Tina said, we had 2 data sets. One data set were from the Form 700 of the judges. And the other data set is were the database export we received from the Secretary of State office. It was about 5 gigabytes, and unfortunately, it was quite unusable at first. The data itself is okay. The problem is with the format they choose to export the data. It was in CSV format, and CSV stands for comma separated value. Basically, it's a text file. Every line in the text file represents a row, and every value in different columns is separated by a comma. Now the problem is with the comma. Commas in that file have a special meaning. So if a field has a comma in between, for example, the location of this meeting is 428 J Street, comma Suite 800, and for some program, it's smart enough that no, that's an address and it's in one field. But for some other program, it's just down. And when it's read 428 J Street, it thinks that whatever next to that is in another column. And that's a great problem. And combined with a few data corruption here and there, which is very common for a data at that size, which is 5 gigabytes, this happened. I want to show a little bit about what happened when you have a data that big and you cannot read it. When you try to read it, this is all you get. Sorry, an error has occurred. Or import file, please retry later. And it's very frustrating, especially for the hacker to manipulate that data. What I did was I wrote one little script that ran for about a few hours to clean up all the data. What it did was it cleaned all the comma that is troublesome, the comma in the middle of the field. So 428 J Street, for example, comma Suite 800 became 428 J Street, spacebar Suite 800, and that's all the problem. And after that, I convert the data into a new format. That's the more hacker-friendly, called JSON format. This is JavaScript object notation. And this is the result we have from that data set. We now have the data in ready and hacker-friendly. But still, I have to stress that the data although clean, but by itself is still a very complicated data and very hard for an average person to make sense of all this database, 5 GB of all text and code and IDs and people don't know about. So we still need a lot of civic hackers, so to say, the developer and the designer, like the one who participate in the 2012 Data Deathmatch Hackathon. Thank you.
Thank you, Tam, and we're really happy to have you as part of our team.
Can I jump in for just a minute? One other thing that Tam is now working on that Tina mentioned that I think will be very helpful to people who actually have to file Form 700s is the gift app, and we hope to have that up and running soon. And it will permit people to keep track of their gifts throughout the year. It'll alert them when from one single source they're getting close to what the gift limit is. And it'll be done in a way that is private to them and not accessible to the FPPC. So it is a very useful, I think, app that people can utilize because I've heard a number of people complaining when they have to go to 5 receptions every night and it's hard to keep track of what it is that they've consumed or didn't consume, and this will give them an opportunity to do that easily.
Now I'd like to introduce Team Open Judge. As the name implies, the team used the Form 700 data set and developed an application aimed at providing easier access to the data to improve transparency and to increase citizen engagement with the data. The team had 7 members, and 3 representatives of the team have joined us today from the Bay Area. They're going to explain about the web and mobile platform search function and citizen engagement applications that they developed. Catherine Posey, she's the founder of Tech by Superwomen, a movement to elevate and celebrate women in tech, as well as she's a social media strategist for Adobe Education. Renee DeResta, she's currently the associate at O'Reilly Alpha Tech Ventures, and for fun, she plays with data sets and crafts. And Kaming Lee is an advocate for women in tech and is a senior iOS software engineer at Pandora.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Ravel. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, commissioners, for the invitation today to share with you what we think could be a future model for how to add tremendous value on top of the hard work that you're doing. So today I'm going to tell you a brief overview of the story of Open Judge, and then Kaming is going to get up and kind of give you a look at the app that she developed in a day and a half. And then Renee is going to do a demo of the directed graph, which is an interactive data visualization that she hacked in 45 minutes, which was really a game changer for our presentation. And so we're really excited to share that with you. When you think about the name Open Judge, it really comes from the open government movement. And there are 3 tenets to open government. So there's collaboration, participation, and transparency. And what Open Judge proposes to do is really bring that to life. So this was the team. As Tina had mentioned, it was a team of 7. And this project truly is a reflection of the hard work of all 7 of our team members. I think the vision ultimately was to have a website along with a companion mobile app that allowed people to look at the gift disclosure data through an interactive visualization dashboard. And so what we did with a team of 7 is spent a tremendous amount of time cleaning the data, as Tam had alluded to. There was a lot of data cleaning that had to take place. Once we had successfully cleaned the data, we then were able to create dashboard whereby you could see, the most common words that were happening in the gifts that were being given. You could take a look at who the donors were, better understand who they were, and then see the connection using a directed graph. So this is just one example of that prototype. So the most important thing I would like to leave you guys with is this, I think, is the future of where government's going. when you think about data in forms, it doesn't really have a life. It's much harder to understand the connections. It's much harder to share that. And with advances in technology, we now can build value on top of that data set, make it more accessible, and then with visualization, help people better interpret and understand what they're seeing and make informed decisions. So with that, Kaming is going to come up and share with you a little bit about the companion app and the data.
Good morning. My name is Kaming Lee. So the data that we used to build our applications were digitized by Captricity. And what they did was they turned the stack of FPPC filings into electronic data, essentially a searchable spreadsheet that can be downloaded from the internet. So anyone with access to internet can actually have access to that data. Now, as Tam mentioned earlier, this data is in CSV format and it's available, but there's still, in order to build meaningful applications on top of this data, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And our team actually ended up spending most of our time processing and compiling this data, raw data, into something more meaningful. Now, the couple of other teammates that were at the hackathon with us, they're not here today, but what they did was they put that data into a SQL database. Now, it's for applications to work with a database. It's much easier than to work with a CSV format file. And after that data is made available, we were able to build an iPhone app that you're looking at right here. It's very brief. It's not the entire app, but you can access the form and the data and the PDF image of that form as it was filed and scanned. And once we have this data, we build an iPhone app and also different types of applications, such as the data graph that Renee will talk about shortly. And to tell a meaningful story, we needed to utilize data that is compiled and processed. And although Captricity made that data digital, and there's still a lot of work that needed to be done to provide that summary that other applications could use. So I'm going to have Renee talk about her data graph today.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. So what I'd like to talk to you about is network analysis. And one of the things that's really interesting about what we were able to do here is there's an idea that you can build out a network visually using links and nodes. And so what you see behind me is a graph in which the red dots are judges and the blue dots are donors. And so this can take live data. You'll kind of see it sort of come in here. So this is an interactive graph. What you're looking at is a representation of the data in the database in a way that shows you the links and nodes. And unfortunately, the resolution is not the greatest, so you potentially can't see the lines connecting them. But data visualization is powerful because it gives you a way to explore visually. And what you do not get by looking at a list of names in a database, you do get by looking at the visualization here, where you can kind of see the interconnection of donors and judges in this particular, for example, set of links here, which kind of encourages you to go through and look and see if perhaps there's something in here, worthy of being considered. Is there a way for me to? Oh, here we go. Scroll. Great. So you can see interesting things here. Like this is one architecture firm that gave a gift of a painting of a new courthouse to 7 or 8 judges. You see another example of a judge who received many, many donations from a particular series of people. This is sort of an interconnected network where you potentially want to go in there and see, is this relationships by industry? Is this relationships by particular areas of expertise? What exactly is going on there? So what this allows you to do is it allows you to bypass the typical way of looking at data, which is to write a SQL query and get a list. So network analysis is a very powerful tool that many different companies are using in many different ways to see how people are connected to each other, and it could be applied to facilitate greater transparency and understanding of what's going on in government. So, and it moves. Yeah. So you can't really see that so much right now because I can't grab it. But yeah, I mean, the purpose of it is to be interactive. This is the same technology that the New York Times uses in their data visualizations. It's a JavaScript library called D3, and it is itself actually open source as well. So, thank you.
I just wanted to say it's exciting because it's one of those things that you can put out there and people can kind of play with the data and come to their own conclusions and just see what's out there. So I don't know if anyone has questions for the group. Well,
Commissioner Wasserman.
So when the cursor is over a particular dot, if something is popping up, is that additional information about the subject?
Yes, it is. So what you're seeing right now is this is a prototype of what something, you would potentially want to build this out so that more information appeared kind of on the side of the screen or something. But again, we had a limited amount of time. So as you mouse over, you do see the name of the party and the relationship and since most of the amount so you can encode a lot more information in something like this. What you could conceivably do is instead of just having donor and judge, you could color code according to magnitude or size of donation as well. So the framework allows for the additional encoding of any additional information you might want. What we did here was just names, and the line weights are varied according to amount of donation. But because there was one pretty big outlier that I didn't remove, it actually isn't showing as well as it potentially could in the future. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Anybody in the audience have a question? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Ray Kitty. That's spelled Kilo India Delta Delta Yankee. I don't want to cast aspersions on the effort that's been presented. It's very interesting. It's very good. It's great that the FPCC is taking these initial steps. I've also looked at the data dumps that were mentioned. It's picking the judges was probably a good thing. I tried to do lobbyists, and you can imagine it's a little more complex. And I would discuss the way that the data had the uncontextualized, disconnected cyclic graphs in the information, and when I would try to have those discussions, people would just sort of back slowly away from me. So this is a really good first step. I just wanted to see clarity on the use of the term open, because open is a continuum and it's a socially defined construct. For example, we know that when an agency has information and it decides in and of itself how to present that information, we know that agencies do a bad job of that. On the other end of the continuum, a lot of agencies put all their data or a large subset of their data out for an open interaction with everybody to compete in an open context on ways to reanalyze and represent the data. So that, I would suggest, is far on the open end of the continuum. Now, having a competition and picking one company is obviously, there is some openness there, but it's obviously in the middle of the continuum somewhere. And I would ask that some entry point into the open process be made open. For example, I've made a little bit of an effort to get in touch with people at Capricity and the executive director's office here, and didn't receive callbacks. I know people are busy, that's fine. But for instance, I just did a search on the FPPC's home page, and the word open does not actually show up on the page. And so if you have an open process, it might be nice to have a link that is easily findable, that has something to do with openness, that goes to the places where there are open activity happening. And in particular, I've been working with open source software for a long time. I was at Apple for 16 years, developer tools group for 10 of that. I've been, now I work for a company that does English language learning software. We run 8 data centers around the world, 9.5 million students, data. So I know open data and I know closed data. I know setting up systems for private data. I know where they combine and how to manage the combinations of those. I've also been elected member of a school board, a K-8 district, so I have a little bit of public policy context. I was also involved with the writing of AB 1624, which put the legislature out on the internet. And also, by the way, I'm right now working on some software to leverage the information from the legislature, and it's at github.com/rkitty. So it's a open source of information, and the software involved, I don't think I saw links to the software that's used in the analysis that was done here. I just wanted to clarify about two things. One, it bothered me that the FPPC site that described that had the data was so strongly branded. I've done pages for public entities before, and the private entity's brand would be completely hidden because it's the public agency that is the managing entity. So you don't go to a library site and look and see an icon for McDonald's. So also, I wanted to add, perhaps this was an intermediate step. If one looks at the judge data, one sees the names and filing dates and things like that in text. And then if you want to see the financials information, you click on something and see an image. That's not reusable data. It's digital, but it's not reusable. For example, the FAA was required by a court order to put out a database of near-miss accidents a few years ago. What did they do? They put out a picture of the printed out report. Totally unusable. They were being hostile to the intent of the order, and they technically put the information out there, but if you're a commercial data aggregator, you'll have people key that in and you can reuse it. But nobody in the public can afford to rekey all that data or correct the problems if one tries to copy and paste it out. So I would just, ask, when information is being made available in an open form, can it actually be open? PDFs are not open; they're a proprietary standard. Pictures are not reusable. You can't sum a column in a picture. You can't do it. It's a picture. You have to type in the numbers if you want to do it yourself. And I would also ask that things like a wiki and mailing lists and open source repositories, these are tools that have been used for the last 10 or 15 years to manage open processes. And so if we could have pointers to those from the FPPC website, that would be extremely helpful. I myself am outside Sacramento, and I don't work in a grant-seeking company. I'm not a lobbyist. Often puts me at a disadvantage in these meetings and in these processes. I don't hear about things. I don't recall if the data hackathon was mentioned in an agenda. I get all the agendas, but I didn't know what else to sign up for to get notice of that, and so I couldn't participate. But then I also have a day job, so I perhaps couldn't have anyways. But I would just encourage, if you all could think about how to be consistently and comprehensively open, which, for example, executive actions by this agency are not on the website of the FPPC. So, they're sent out as email, and then they disappear. They're ephemeral unless somebody's captured them, unless somebody has set up a system to manage them themselves. So, openness is good, but, let's provide at least a forum for a discussion of what open means and make that discussion area open, at least. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. I actually think that a lot of what you have said has some merit, and I would like to communicate with you more about it. I'm sorry that you didn't get a return phone call. You can call me. My phone number is on the website, or you don't have a pen or anything there, but afterwards I can give you my direct line. Love to talk to you about these issues. We want to do better. I mean, part of the problem for the FPPC in terms of the capricity and the way that information was put on, we realized that it was just a small step forward, and it was not expensive. Right. Our problem is lack of money. So which is why we have associated with Code for America and other kinds of activities. The hackathon was, of course, it cost me a bottle of wine. And the prize money that I personally, paid for. So, that's our problem. So that's one of the reasons that we're doing things in incremental steps. But believe me, we want to get to where you're talking about.
Well, thank you. I mean, one of the reasons I'm here is that I knew I needed to establish some point of contact. I wasn't assuming people were trying to keep other people out.
Yeah.
Also, there is a source of funding. There was a law passed recently which gives a fee for users of the CalAccess system that will fund, hopefully, improvements of the CalAccess system.
Yes, but we do not run the CalAccess system.
I know. Well, and that's part of the problem. The Secretary of State stores the information. You all are responsible for the information getting into it, but nobody is per se responsible for making sure the information there makes sense. I know it's not a conspiracy. It's just how it was set up.
Yeah.
But it's problematic.
No, and we appreciate your comments, and we can have this separately. And believe me, we're interested in anybody's ideas, and definitely the question of what is open and what isn't open is something that merits a lot of conversation because there's a whole range of things that could be put on, and of course our interest is to make information available to the public that is usable and meaningful to them, not just so much information that it's not understandable or usable.
Right. Well, thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. And finally, I just want to thank the teams and TAM. We really appreciate your efforts very much, and thank you for coming for the presentation today. It was really wonderful. The next items it's item 41, which are the executive staff reports, and Ms. Bass.
Okay. Tina Bass again, still. I want to just have my report as submitted. However, I just wanted to go over the new agenda format that we have. I don't know if you noticed that on the website, but just go through it a little to show you the features, I guess. So let Tam come up with that. Okay. And the new format basically is just to focus more on what you want to read. We developed it for you, for the commission, for the public, for staff, and basically the old format you had to scroll up and down a lot more. We did this by subject. So if you wanted, there's the old format. Okay. So for example, if you want to look at a regulation, you you can go down and just click on the regulation tab or enforcement items, click on that, and we arranged it a little bit differently. So if you're interested just in the campaign reporting violations, you can click on that. And we're just hoping that it's going to be a little bit easier to read. We still have the old format up at the top right. If you want to print it out, for example, you can go up and we have that available to you. The new format, though, you can access it on your phone or your iPad. And now that we have Wi-Fi, you have an option of either having paper or you can just do it electronically while you're in the meeting. We organized. Let's see, what else should I show you? Oh, if you go down to the on the left corner, you can still view it by item number if you're interested in a certain item. So we didn't take away that function that we had in the old feature of having it, by item. And the last thing is just we separated out legislation. Just felt like it was sort of a different subject matter than that used to be included under the staff reports. And I hope it's useful.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the legislative report, and the legislative coordinator, Suki Brar is here. And I want to mention for those of you who are listening and in the audience, we did receive a comment letter about legislation last night from Chuck Bell, who's present here today as well. But just so you know, it's online, and we have copies outside for those of you who did not have an opportunity to review that letter. And it relates to the Dickinson bill, AB 45. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Ravel and Commissioner Suki Brar, Legislative Coordinator and Commission Counsel. I just wanted to note, along with my report, that there have been several bills introduced since the date of the report, and I plan to present those to you at the next meeting, along with recommendations for positions to take on each of those bills, and an opportunity to discuss each of those bills at that time. So, with that, my report is as submitted.
And just to let everybody know, one of the issues that was raised by Mr. Bell was a desire to have a conversation about the provisions of AB 45, and we certainly do want to have full discussion about all of these bills when it gets to the point that we have some time to, and it's the right time to be making a decision on behalf of the Commission as to whether or not we want to take a position on any of the bills. We understand that a number of these will be either combined or changed. A couple of them are spot bills. So it's premature now, but we definitely do want to have a public discussion about the bills and about their components and whether we should support or not. Are there any questions by the Commission? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Mr. Olson.
Morning, Lance Olson, law firm Olson, Hagelin, Fishburne. I was actually almost got up in the last presentation, but this seems to me gives an opportunity to tie two things together. When your staff is considering, and as you begin to consider positions on legislation, many of these bills, we've looked at some of them. We have ideas of some of the spot bills may ultimately contain. And many of them, in the name of openness and transparency, involve additional obligations on filers who are regulated by the FPPC and the Political Reform Act. And I hope the Commission and staff recognizes that there's really an opportunity here now that you have the ability to take this data that exists, it already exists, and manipulate it. I understand it's not very useful right now. We were all snickering in the background when they were talking about the SOS database. But at some point that can change. And once that changes, it strikes me that a lot of these, including existing regulations and existing statutes, become unnecessary. I mean, we have an extremely complex system of regulation in California, particularly in the campaign finance field. And I know there's lots of new bills that are going to be introduced this year, all again in the interest of transparency and openness and so forth. And I think a lot of that transparency and openness exists now if somebody just would stop, figure out how to use it, and make it available to the public. And so I hope you keep that in mind as you consider this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience? Hearing none, are there any other reports from executive staff?
The rest are as submitted unless you have any questions.
Any questions by the Commission, by the audience? No? With that, then, I believe we have come to the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Eskovitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Montgomery?
Aye.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Chair Ravel?
Yes, thank you. We are adjourned.